So, and he's also the recipient of 2 Silver Stars. So, one as a captain in the Army. That's a long story with a short ending, but I'll let him tell that one. But they asked to talk about honor. And I was driving down here. Like I said, I just recently relocated to the great state of Montana. I'm driving down here, and I'm driving them about 50 feet north of hell, driving through Beaver, Utah, and Interstate 15. And hot, thinking, what am I going to discuss? I looked at the clock, I go back, and I go, you know what? I got wounded in Vietnam, the second time, 48 years ago right now, walking up after taking my first bath in 94 days. And I sent out a little text, you know, we got these communicating devices now that we didn't have back in the day. But I texted 2 friends of mine. One of them is a retired Master Sergeant from the Wisconsin National Guard, who got his 3rd Purple Heart in Fallujah in 2005. He got his first 2 at Quezon with us as our 81 FO for 2nd Battalion, 26 Marines. And then we had the other one is retired Master Gunnery Sergeant who did his 2nd tour in Vietnam with 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, 1969 and 70. And I texted him, I said, today's the day I got wounded with Doc Langenfeld, Joe Lopez, and Rick Delaplane. Anyway, I said, do you guys remember this incident? And I got a text message back from Larry McCartney. Larry was a retired Master Gunnery Sergeant, 30 years in the Marine Corps. And I want to read it because I can't do it justice paraphrasing it, but the guy not only remembered it, but paid a tribute to the corpsmen that we had. Those names I just wrapped off were our corpsmen. They were killed by a 122 rocket that went right over my head. You know, and you see guys like Sergeant Major Castle, who really earned a Purple Heart. You know, some of you guys I've cut myself shaving, done worse damage to myself than what I got, but they still thought I needed to go see an orthopedic guy. But this is from Larry McCartney. So while I'm driving along, the guy driving my truck is a civilian, no military experience, and I told him this story. And I go, I was on a river guard, so was still armed and dressed. I yelled for someone to take guard and hauled ass to the wounded. When I got there, I saw others trying to help already, so I ran to the battalion aid station for corpsmen. When I got there, a tall first class was blocking the door, so none could leave. He asked, where are your corpsmen? I yelled, it is our corpsman. Langen, that's all he got out, was Langenfeld. Before I could finish, the BAS bunker was empty, except for the battalion doctor. The first class led the way. The doctor just looked at me, and with a saddest face, tears running down his cheeks. It was then that I learned all of our corpsmen had a standing order since February 5th, 1968, to not go to the wounded, to have the wounded brought to them because the battalion had lost so many corpsmen. That standing order was routinely ignored when one of us was wounded. God bless those docs. They are all Marines. Semper Fi. That's what they're. Yeah, it's a strange thing when you have a couple of 122 rockets hit among about 20 people, and the only 3 it kills out of the whole group are sailors. And my squad, we all got to go to Da Nang that night to the NAS hospital down there. So, well, actually we went to Delta Med first. Now that's another interesting place. These are honorable folks. The doctors at Delta Med was in Dong Ha. We're talking mid-April. The Tet Offensive started in January 1968. Mid-April, those corpsmen at Delta Med had been working their butts off. And when we landed in the CH-46, they're having a mini mutiny there. They're almost on strike because they've been working 20-hour days, 7 days a week since January. And the chief and the doctors were trying to calm them down and get them back to work. And I don't know about you guys, I don't like having the medical people pissed off when they're working on me. You know? So they got them back to work. I laid in there, and they had so many casualties in there that they'd set up GP medium tents off to the side of the battalion aid, or that aid station. That's actually a medical battalion. It was a regular, like a trailer deal, you know, like you see around here occasionally. But we were in, since I wasn't hurt that bad, was ambulatory. They had me on sawhorses on an officer's cot, also known as a stretcher. Anyway, they're working on us. We go out, and they send us down to Naval Support Activity. It was called NSA Hospital down in Da Nang. And finally, I got my orders. I go back. Because I told them, I go, no, I don't need new 782 gear. That's your fighting gear for the civilians. Your war belt, your thunder stick, all that stuff. I go, my guys kept my stuff for me. I get back to my unit, I got nothing. They go, where's your gear? I go, who's got my gear? Oh, we didn't think you were coming back. So it all got dispersed. So I had to go down and get issued new gear. But the thing that has always got me about my time in the Marine Corps was short and sweet. It was boot camp, combat. Then back here, I was stationed here. Then I was stationed at Mainside. I was fapped out. My job was to mow the lawn and paint logs and things like that. So until I got out. But I've always thought about my time in the Marine Corps. I had a friend of mine ask me, he says, Jim, you did 40 years in law enforcement on the Sheriff's Department. You did 2 years in the Marine Corps. Which are you more proud of? And I go, my 2 years in the Marine Corps. Because we put it to them. We put it to the North Vietnamese back then. We fought them hard. I was in some hard fighting units. We fought hard people. The North Vietnamese Army were well trained. And I was thinking about driving up here. I'd go, what am I going to talk about? I thought I'd mention the Corps. Seeing Dr. Feldman makes me happy. Glad he's still alive. He did some pretty heroic things. I got to tell you, I got to tell the Feldman story. He was working, I think, at Delta Med. And as a doctor, after he left 126, the Army had replaced us up there, 1st Battalion, 11th Infantry from the 5th Mechanized Division. They had casualties. Doc Feldman hopped on a helicopter, flew to that location where this Army mech unit was. They saw the captain's bars, didn't realize he was actually a lieutenant in the Navy, and put him to work as the company commander of that unit. And preparing the final defensive fire and all that stuff. So anyway, he's a good sailor, so for an Army guy. Anyway, I wanted to say that the honor comes from right in here. You have that. You live it every day. You have to, because really, when you think about it, at the end of the day, what else do you really have? Can you look in the mirror? Can you talk? Can you look yourself in the mirror and go, am I a dirtbag? Am I a scumbag? And like Deputy Finney said earlier to you young Marines there, when you leave here, once you're a Marine, you are always a Marine. Just like once you're a cop, you're always a cop. You notice how the headlines go in the paper? Ex-cop does this, or ex-Marine runs amok and does this. And I don't care if you were a shitbird that just got DQ'd out of here, you know, sent out on a bad conduct. You do not want to get anything but an honorable discharge out of here, because that tail will follow you forever. So the last thing I'm going to do here, because I think I'm getting ready to get called. No, I still got time to. Good, I can find this on it. The guy I told this story to driving down here, civilian, he'd never heard me talk about Vietnam. And I told him the story of getting wounded, told him the story about not having a bath for 94 days. And he told a couple other buddies that are not Marines, but I got a text I'm going to read from another guy. And this one is a pretty good one. I asked him to send it again because I inadvertently deleted it, but he sent me a text. It came out of the blue, and I go, I understand today is a memory that represents a day of honor and pain, pride and regret, and an opportunity to help yourself. But more importantly, help all those vets that could use your calm and pride in what you gave. Anyway, that's part of honor as well. There's an honorable man right there, even though he's pointing that camera at me. The camera's not your friend in a war zone. But Dan McIntyre, he was a combat medic with the 25th Infantry Division. I'm going to let you guys ask questions now. It's been a great event. It's an honor to be amongst some of these folks. Yes, sir. Ben Williams.
What was your R&R uniform like?
What's that?
What was your R&R uniform like?
Oh, my R&R uniform. Oh, yeah, that was I'd been in country for a year before I got R&R, and all of my in-country things that were in a sea bag were destroyed, you know, throughout the Tet Offensive. So I went down to supply, and I said, I need to draw a uniform to go on R&R. I got less than 30 days to go in country. I've been there a year. So I'm senior man in the battalion, and they go, okay, well, we don't have this. We don't have that. They have trousers. We wore khaki trousers, similar to what the chaps was wearing there, but they were made out of cotton or wash and wear. So, of course, they looked horrible without any kind of laundry facility.
4 inches short.
Yeah, they were 4 inches short. I had green field socks. They gave me a pair of black shoes. They gave me a new belt, but no buckle. And they gave me a shirt, but they didn't have any chevrons. They didn't have, and I wore a green t-shirt. I think I found a green t-shirt. So I tied the belt in a square knot. Oh, I didn't have a cover either. They didn't have any fore and aft hats. So that's how I went on R&R. So you got to go from the field, the rear area, you got to get on an airplane or a helicopter, you got to fly down to Da Nang. Do you think any staff NCOs had fun with me going down there? I get there, I explain my plight, and finally some gunny, he's I'm in Da Nang. I made it all the way down there, getting harassed constantly about my uniform of the day there. And he goes, okay, I'll go with everything but the little Abner look. Give me that belt. Get on the plane and get out of here. So, yeah, that's how and then when I left Vietnam, finally, when I came back from R&R, I did a self-checkout because everybody was on break. I had to burglarize the medical building to get my medical records. I had to basically go through the back door and get my SRB. I had to find it. I had my orders, so I was good to go, and I wasn't going to let some pogue that's on a lunch break slow me up from getting out of there. But those are the fun times. There were a lot of bad times, a lot of fun times, a lot of laughable times, but I knew some men of honor. There's men of honor here, women of honor here. We've got officers from LAPD. I want to acknowledge their presence here. San Diego Sheriffs. We got, I want to thank all of you. Anybody got a question for another, except I was an RE1, Lance Corporal.
I got a comment. Jim is the last person in the world to ever tell you this. His humility sometimes is in question, but if you know the real story, this is it. This personifies honor to me. And don't correct me if I'm wrong. In order. Never mind. I forgot who I said that to. Jim and his buddy, the last two surviving in the company, the platoon, were pinned down by a machine gun nest. And as I remember, he was in a very, very shallow gully. Perhaps a fallen comrade was his protection from the machine gun nest. All he had was a 1811 45 that he picked up from some dead.
An 1811?
1911. Oh, there you go. You got to get your hearing checked too. Oh, there you go. So if they ran, they'd be killed. If they charged the machine gun nest, they'd be killed. Instinctively, he chose the honorable thing. Charged the machine gun nest, wiped out 3 NVA, manning the machine gun, and they both made it through. That's Jim Kaylor. He'll never tell you.
All right, we've got our next guest speaker, or we have a...
One more question.
Well, you're the guy that keeps asking dumb questions.
The good Lieutenant Colonel there brought up a great point. You charged that machine gun nest out of courage and honor, but honor is what drove you on more than courage. Isn't that what kept the Sergeant Major in Hell House, was honor? Courage is a big part, but honor is the driver. Yes?
Well, I'm not really sure of that. I'm sure the Sergeant Major isn't really sure of that either. I'll tell you what I am sure of. I have no idea why I'm still alive. None. Because I felt the bullets, the air turbulence off the bullets going by my ears, and I made it through their final protective fire. But I didn't have a choice. There was no choice. We were mid-charge, and then we got caught out in the open, and then we realized we'd made a huge mistake. So it's either get shot in the back running away, get shot in the chest running at it. That was the only choice you had. And the other young man that was with me, Bill Hayes, if his body hadn't landed on that machine gun and screwed those guys up and me shot him with a 45, I wouldn't be here. So it was just a bad day, as they say. And I'm just glad to still be here. I never got a scratch that day, and we had 25 casualties. We had 15 guys killed in that, out of my platoon. And it's a pretty bad day. But I don't know what else to say about that. It's like Sergeant Major. I really don't, they can ask you about it, what's it like. It does go in slow motion a little bit, though. It does go in slow motion. But you're screwed when you see 6 guys and you get 3 bullets left in your pistol, and that's it. You're in bad shape there. So anyway, any other questions? No? Jim? Well, also I have to say one of my old platoon commander at the time, who's now deceased, his basic school classmate is right here. That's Steve, and yeah, he went to basic school with 3 of my lieutenants. So, any other questions? Next speaker.
I have a question. Have you taken a bath since then?
No. You again. That's a guy, that's a prior enlisted recruiter. He tried to get me in when I was how old?
You were a waiver, big time.
Oh, okay. Any other? Who do we have next up here?
Ken.
Lieutenant Colonel Ken Pipes.
Now, this guy truly is a Marine Corps hero and a legend of the Corps.